Good morning and welcome to our Strategic People Management Program. We are now on to Module 5, which is Competency Modeling. Now we have gone through Module 3 and Module 4, which is Organizational Design and Job Design, respectively. And now we're going to the last of the first three activities that we need to perform, which is Competency Modeling. Now I'd like you to look at this table, and you'll notice in this table we have 5 columns: deliverables, natural talents, knowledge, skills, and attitude. Now, when developing a competency model for a particular job, we first begin by identifying the deliverables for that job. Okay, so for example, for a cook, what would be the deliverable for a cook? The deliverable would be a delicious meal. Okay, for a driver, the deliverable would be perhaps the service of transporting people safely to their destination. Okay, so depending on the position, we identify the deliverable for that particular position. The next column will identify the natural talents needed by that person performing this task or performing this job in order to produce the deliverables. Okay, for going back to our example, for a cook to be able to deliver or produce a delicious meal, the natural talent could be the ability to distinguish flavors. Okay, di ba may mga nagluluto na magaling silang malaman kung ano yung kaibahan ng mga lasa ng pagkain. Okay? So, yung skill na yan ay yung tinatawag natin natural skill. Okay? For a driver, the natural skill could be yung kanyang sense of direction o yung kanyang abilidad para malaman kung nasaan siya. Sabay papuntang norte, papuntang south, papuntang east or west. No? So may mga drivers na kahit paikot-ikot ka ng daan, natatandaan nila yung dinaanan mo. No? Dahil partiyan yung kanilang kakayanan. No? So some drivers that comes naturally. No? So when we talk about natural talents, these are skills that had been developed over time by this person. So much so that this particular skill or ability comes in naturally to a person. Okay. Now the next column identifies the type of knowledge that this person needs to know or to carry. No? So for a cook, in order to produce the delicious meals, of course, she or he has to have the knowledge for food preparation, the types of ingredients needed for this particular recipe, and perhaps also some basics on food safety. Okay, so those are the knowledge that a cook would probably need. For a driver, the driver should know, perhaps should know how to how a car works or how an engine works. Okay, the driver must also know the road network. Okay, now the next column identifies the type of skills that that person would need in order to produce the deliverables. Okay, so in our example, a cook should have the skill of preparing the ingredients, be able to mix it properly, be able to cook them properly in order to produce the desired taste for that meal. Okay. For a driver, of course, the skill would be to how to operate a vehicle, but also it could also be an important skill for a driver, how to troubleshoot the vehicle in case it breaks down. On the fifth column, the last column, we refer to attitudes. So what kind of attitude should this person possess so that the desired deliverables would be produced? So for a cook, what kind of attitude should a good cook have? Perhaps patience in preparing the meal, patience in chopping the ingredients and mixing them. Okay, so it takes time before a delicious meal is prepared. So if a cook is not patient, then you'll just throw in all of the ingredients all at the same time without really minding whether it would affect the taste or not. Okay, so a good cook should have an attitude of patience, should have an attitude of cleanliness. Of course, he needs to observe safety. Okay. For a driver, perhaps the kind of attitude that the driver should possess is an attitude of safety, an attitude of respecting other drivers on the road, okay? An attitude of observing the rules and regulations in driving. Okay, so putting all of these together make up the competency of a person for a particular job. Okay, so this is a simple way of creating a competency model for a particular job. Now, when we talk about competency model, we're talking about the desired characteristics of a person who would most likely succeed in the position. Okay, so when we talk about competency, what we mean by this is that these are the characteristics and qualities of a person that is related to superior performance in a job. Okay, qualities that will enable a superior performer to demonstrate critical behaviors more often in more situations with better results. Okay, so when we talk about competency modeling, we are actually talking about identifying the characteristics of people who perform well in a particular job. So dito, gagawin natin dito, tingnan ninyo yung mga workers natin, yung mga employees natin who are good at a particular job. Okay? So tingnan niyo yung pinakamagaling na nurse, tingnan niyo yung pinakamagaling na caregiver. Ano yung characteristics nila? Bakit nasabi natin sila ay mas magaling kumpara dun sa iba? Ano yung ginagawa nila? Ano yung behaviors nila? And what other characteristics and traits do they possess that make them superior performers? So we use these observations and then create our job or our competency model for that particular position. Now, a few things to remember when we talk about competencies. Sometimes competencies are difficult to observe. Okay, so it's like an iceberg. So if you imagine an iceberg, no, di ba yung iceberg? It's like yung in the movie Titanic, wherein the ship bumangga doon sa iceberg. Okay, icebergs oftentimes, no, mas maliit yung nakikita natin doon sa surface ng water. Pero yung kalakihan ng parte ng iceberg nandun sa ilalim ng tubig. Okay? So, comparing this with competencies, no, yung nakikita natin sa isang tao, yung sa competencies niya, na readily or easily observable, ay yung nandun sa taas. Ito yung nakalutang. Okay? So, normally, ito yung mga skills nila, ito yung knowledge nila. And they are easier to measure, they're easier to observe, and they're also easier to change. No? For example, if the person is not performing well, then because he lacks the knowledge or he lacks the skill, then we can easily train that person in order to improve that ability. Okay? Pero may parte sa competencies na nakalubog dun sa tubig. Ibig sabihin, yung kalakihan ng competencies, hindi natin yan nakikita. Or hindi natin yan nakikita kaagad dahil nandun sila sa ilalim ng tubig. Okay? And these things that are difficult to see are the values, the self-image, the traits, and the motives of a particular person performing a job. Okay. However, this could be revealed over time, pero it takes a lot of observation, of course, and getting to know that person. Okay. So again, we are going to refer back to this when we go into the recruitment topic, wherein whenever we recruit someone or hire someone, we will always look at the hidden ones first, no? That would determine whether we would hire a person or not. Okay, so yung skills, madali lang yung i-develop once they are in, no? So we can train them, we can coach them. However, kapag kayong problema natin attitude, ang problema natin yung values, yung problema natin yung self-image niya, yung motives, medyo mas mahirap baguhin yan. Okay? And once we hire a person who possesses attitudes that are not aligned to what we want, no, mas mahirap nang baguhin o tanggalin. Okay? So this also comes into play whenever we hire someone for a particular position. Now, there are two types of competencies. These are the core competencies and functional competencies. When we talk about core competencies, ito yung mga competencies or yung mga behavioral patterns or abilities that everyone in the organization should possess. Okay, so an example of this would be leadership. Okay, so everyone in the organization should have leadership competencies. Okay, or pwede din communication. So everybody in the organization should be able to or should have the ability to communicate. Okay. Now, when we talk about functional competencies, these are the specific behaviors or abilities that are important for a particular function or job in the organization. Okay. An example of this would be numeracy, or your ability to manipulate or interpret numbers. This could be useful for people in the accounting department, in the HR department, no, or in jobs that require abilities with numbers. No? For example, cashiering. Okay, pero it might not be that important with the other positions. So, financial analysis, the ability to perform financial analysis might be important for a manager or for an accounting person. However, it might not be important for a driver. Okay, so functional competencies are true only for a particular position. Okay, not everyone in the organization might possess them. Now, here are some examples of core competencies. No? So reading, planning, strategic focus, teamwork, problem solving, communication. And here's an example. Here, an example for functional competencies for a payroll officer. Okay, so a payroll officer must have attention to details. The payroll officer must have the ability to prioritize, must have ability in financial accounting and reporting, management of expense and liabilities. Okay, now so we go to the case assignment. In order to do this assignment, you need to refer to the module 4 assignment that you had, wherein you created the job design for a particular position. Okay, so now you're going to use the same position and do a competency model for that position. Okay, and you could use the table that we had shown you earlier as a guide in preparing the competency model for that particular position. Okay, So once you're done, kindly post it in our Google Drive. Look for Module 5 and look for the folder assignments and upload it on that folder so that everybody can view what you have done. And then when we meet on July 2, we will be discussing all three, the organizational design, the job design, and the competency model that you have done. So thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you on our peer learning session.